The first time Eli saw her, she was standing across the conference room, her skin a soft lavender that seemed to shimmer under the artificial lights of the space station. Ambassador Naira of Azura, the official representative of the first alien civilization humanity had ever encountered. She stood with quiet dignity, her delicate features composed in an expression of calm interest as Earth's delegation droned on about cooperation and peaceful exchange. Eli hadn't expected to be here. As a pilot and engineer, his role was supposed to be purely technical, maintain the systems, fly the shuttle if needed, stay in the background. Yet somehow Admiral Chen had insisted he join the diplomatic team, citing his exceptional adaptability as something they might need. "Lieutenant Hayes," the Admiral whispered, nudging him forward. "Ambassador Naira has requested a tour of our vessel's propulsion systems. As our lead engineer, you'll escort her." Eli straightened his uniform, suddenly aware of his heartbeat. "Yes, sir." Up close, Naira was even more striking. Her eyes were deep violet with flecks of silver that reminded him of distant stars. She had no hair, but rather a series of small, iridescent scales that formed elegant patterns across her head. "Lieutenant?" she said, her voice melodic with an accent he couldn't place. "I've studied your fusion drive designs. Quite impressive for a species so young." Eli smiled despite himself. "Young? Your civilization must be ancient then. We've had interstellar travel for 3,000 of your Earth years." She replied, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "So, yes, you are quite the children in galactic terms." As they walked through the corridors, Eli found himself captivated by how she moved, graceful and fluid, as though partially defying gravity. When they reached the engine room, her eyes widened with genuine interest. "Your approach is unexpected," she said, running her fingers along a control panel. "We focused on manipulating space itself, while you found ways to harness tremendous energy, different paths to the same stars." Eli offered. She turned to him, her expression softening. "A poetic observation, Lieutenant Hayes." "Eli," he said suddenly. "You can call me Eli." The days that followed were filled with tense negotiations as Earth and Azura felt their way toward understanding. Territorial boundaries, resource sharing, technological exchange, all carefully discussed by rooms full of diplomats and military personnel. But in the quiet moments between meetings, Eli found himself assigned again and again to Naira's side. They discussed engine specifications and star charts, but also art and music and the strange coincidences of convergent evolution that had led both there. Species to develop similar values despite evolving on worlds light years apart. One evening, as they stood in the observation deck watching Earth rotate slowly beneath them, Naira sighed. "Your world is beautiful," she said softly. "So blue Azura is mostly purple, right? Like, ... double quotes." Eli stopped himself. "Like my skin." Naira laughed gently. "Yes, our oceans reflect our sun differently. The whole planet glows lavender at sunset. I'd like to see that someday," Eli said, surprising himself with his sincerity. Naira turned to him, her starlit eyes serious. "Perhaps you will, Eli Hayes. Perhaps you will." As she leaned slightly closer, their shoulders almost touching, Eli felt something stir inside him, a feeling as vast and unexpected as the universe that had brought them together. Morning light streamed through the embassy windows as Eli waited nervously in the reception area. After weeks of diplomatic meetings, Earth's government had established a temporary Azuran embassy in Geneva, and Ambassador Naira had surprised him with an invitation for what she called cultural immersion. "Lieutenant Hayes," her melodic voice called as she entered. Today she wore a flowing garment in shades of blue and silver that complemented her lavender skin perfectly. "You look different," Eli managed, immediately regretting his awkwardness. Naira's lips curved upward. "I've adopted some Earth fashion elements. My advisors think it might help humans feel more comfortable with us." They walked together through the busy streets of Geneva. Eli couldn't help noticing the stares Naira attracted, some curious, some wary, a few openly hostile. "Does it bother you?" he asked quietly. The way people look at you. On Azura, we have a saying, "New eyes bring new wisdom." Your people haven't seen beings from other worlds before. Their caution is natural. She paused at a small cafe, breathing in the aroma of coffee. What is this scent? It's intoxicating. The afternoon unfolded in unexpected delight as Eli introduced Nira to espresso, chocolate and jazz music, in a small club where the owner, an elderly woman who had seen too much of life to be shocked by an alien visitor, welcomed them warmly. The rhythm, Nira whispered, her fingers tapping along with the saxophone. It feels like the dual heartbeat of Azuran music. You have similar music? Music is universal, Eli. Though our instruments might surprise you, as evening approached, Nira led him to the embassy's rooftop garden, transformed into a miniature landscape from her homeworld. Strange, crystalline plants caught the sunset light, breaking it into thousands of prismatic colors. This is an Azuran greeting ritual, she explained, handing him a small crystal bowl filled with luminescent liquid. We share reflections moments that define us. Eli sipped cautiously, tasting something like honey and starlight. I became a pilot because of my father, he found himself saying. He showed me the stars when I was young and told me we'd reach them someday. Naira's eyes softened. On Azura was considered ... unconventional. I argued for contact with Earth when many counseled. Isolation? Her fingers brushed his as she took the bowl. They feared you, but I saw something in your transmissions, your art, your music, your capacity for wonder. Later, as moonlight bathed the garden, Nira demonstrated an Azuran dance, her movements flowing like water. When she invited Eli to join, his initial clumsiness gave way to something more intuitive as she guided him. The essence is connection, she explained, her hand warm against his. Finding harmony between different rhythms, they ended standing close, her eyes reflecting the stars above. For a moment, Eli thought she might step closer still, but instead, she gently withdrew her hand. It's late, she said softly. Tomorrow brings more negotiations. As Eli walked home through the quiet streets, he realized something had shifted between them, something both thrilling and terrifying in its implications. The diplomatic conference room buzzed with tension. What had begun as promising negotiations between Earth and Azura had deteriorated over the past week, with disagreements about technology sharing and military boundaries growing increasingly heated. Your government's insistence on maintaining exclusion zones around Jupiter's moons is unacceptable, General Vartus, the Azuran military attaché, stated coldly. His dark purple skin was almost black with displeasure. A physiological response, Eli had learned, indicated extreme frustration. Admiral Chen responded with equal firmness. Those research stations contain sensitive materials. We've offered alternative locations for joint operations. Eli watched Nira from across the room. As chief ambassador, she maintained perfect composure. But he had learned to read the subtle signs of her distress, the way her fingers pressed together, the slight tension around her eyes. When the meeting adjourned without resolution, she remained seated. Reviewing notes on her tablet, Ambassador Eli approached cautiously. Would you like to get some air? They walked silently through the embassy gardens, the sweet scent of earth flowers mingling with the spicy aroma of transplanted Azuran vegetation. This isn't going well, Nira finally said, her voice barely audible. There are factions on my world pushing for isolation, claiming humans are too unpredictable, too dangerous. And what do you believe? Eli asked. She turned to him, moonlight silvering her features. I believe in connection, Eli, in the power of understanding across differences. Her hand reached toward his face, but stopped just short of touching him. But I fear my personal feelings may be clouding my judgment. Eli's heart thundered in his chest. Your personal feelings? Before she could answer, her communication device chimed. She checked it, and her expression fell. The council requests an emergency meeting. I must return to our ship. Over the next days, Eli threw himself into work. Trying to distract himself from thoughts of Nira, he reviewed technical specifications, attended briefings, anything to keep his mind occupied. But at night, memories of her voice, her laughter, The almost touch in the garden haunted him. When they finally met again at a formal reception, the atmosphere between their delegations was frigid. Military representatives from both sides watched each other with barely concealed suspicion while politicians spoke in carefully measured platitudes. Naira approached him during a lull, her formal robes shimmering with embedded light that pulsed gently. An Azuran technology that communicated subtle emotional cues to her people. "Lieutenant Hayes," she greeted him formally, though her eyes held warmth. "I've been authorized to request your assistance with calibrating our communication systems to better interface with Earth technology." It was a thin excuse, but Eli seized it gratefully. "Of course, Ambassador. When would be convenient?" In the quiet of the communications lab later that evening, their professional facade gradually slipped away. "I've missed our conversations," Naira admitted as they worked side by side. "I've missed everything," Eli replied honestly. Her hand covered his briefly. "This situation between our worlds, it's complicated. But my feelings aren't." Her eyes met his, vulnerability clear in their depths, and that terrifies me. "Eli, what I feel for you wasn't in any diplomatic protocol," as alarm klaxons suddenly blared through the station, announcing yet another diplomatic incident. Eli realized with perfect clarity that he had fallen in love with her across species, across worlds, against all reason, and in her eyes. He saw the same impossible truth reflected back. The emergency alert had been triggered by an unauthorized scan of Earth's defense satellites, a technical misunderstanding, but one that escalated tensions to dangerous levels. In the aftermath, both delegations retreated to defensive postures. With direct communication channels reduced to formal exchanges, only Eli received his new orders with a growing sense of dread. "Lieutenant Hayes, you're being reassigned effective immediately," Admiral Chen informed him, her expression grave. "The Joint Chiefs want our best engineers working on defense systems. You'll return to Earth on tomorrow's transport, Admiral." "I believe I can be more useful here," Eli argued. "I've built rapport with the Azuran technical team." "That's precisely the problem," Chen interrupted. "Some feel you've developed inappropriate connections. This comes from the top, Hayes. The situation is precarious." That night, Eli paced his quarters, torn between duty and desire. The rational part of him understood the reassignment tensions were high, and his feelings for Naira could indeed compromise his judgment. But the thought of leaving without seeing her again was unbearable. His communication terminal chimed with an encrypted message. "Observation deck. Midnight. End." The station's nighttime lighting cast the observation deck in soft blues and purples. Naira stood by the viewport, her silhouette outlined against the stars. "It's more beautiful than any constellation." "I heard about your reassignment," she said without turning. "My sources in your delegation are quite informative." "Naira, I don't," she whispered, finally facing him. "Don't say you're sorry. Don't say it's for the best." In the privacy of the deserted deck, she moved closer, her scent like distant thunderstorms and sweet flowers. "We've been so careful, haven't we? Always maintaining propriety, always remembering our duties. Our worlds are on the brink of something terrible," Eli said softly. "If relations continue deteriorating, then we may never see each other again," Naira finished. Her fingers finally touched his face, tracing the contours with gentle wonder. "Your skin is so warm." Eli closed his eyes at her touch. "I don't want to leave, then. Stay with me tonight," she whispered. Just tonight, in the observation deck's shadow, beneath the light of 1,000 distant suns, they found each other. Her touch was electric, her skin cool against his, her heartbeat a rhythm he'd never known but somehow recognized. When she curled into his chest softly, as if his heartbeat was home to her, Eli understood that some connections transcended all boundary species, worlds, duty. Morning came too quickly. As they dressed in silence, the reality of their separation loomed like an approaching storm. "I'll find a way back," Eli promised. Knowing it might be impossible, Naira pressed something into his hand, a small crystal that glowed with inner light. "On Azura, we give these to those we... double quotes." She hesitated, to those we cannot bear to lose. It contains memories, our memories encoded in light. When Eli's shuttle departed hours later, he watched the space station grow smaller until it was just another light among the stars. The crystal in his pocket pulsed with the rhythm of her heart, a rhythm now intertwined with his own. 6 months passed on Earth, each day stretching endlessly as Eli buried himself in work. The diplomatic situation had stabilized into a cold peace, no progress but no further deterioration. His crystal from Naira remained his most treasured possession, its glow seeming to respond to his emotions brightest when he missed her most. Then came the news that changed everything. Earth was sending a new delegation to reopen substantive talks, and due to his unique experience with Azuran technology, Eli would be included. The journey back to the station felt both endless and too brief time to hope, time to fear what might have changed. Had she moved on? Had the political climate made their connection impossible? When he stepped onto the station's main concourse, his eyes immediately found her in the crowd. Naira stood tall and formal in her ambassadorial robes, but the moment their eyes met, her composure flickered, revealing a flash of raw emotion before her diplomatic mask returned. The formal reception that evening was a carefully choreographed dance of diplomacy. Both sides presented new proposals, new frameworks for cooperation. Eli watched Naira command the room with grace and intelligence, pride swelling in his chest, even as he maintained his professional distance. It was 3 days before they found a moment alone, in a quiet corridor, away from the watchful eyes of both delegations. "I wasn't sure you'd return," Naira admitted, her voice soft. "I wasn't sure I'd be allowed to," Eli replied. "Naira, these past months have been an eternity," she finished. "The crystal I gave you, did you learn to access the memories?" Eli shook his head. "It responds to me, glows brighter sometimes. But I couldn't figure out how to see what's inside." Her smile was gentle as she took his hand, placing the crystal between their palms. "It requires both of us. That's the point of connection that cannot exist in isolation." As their hands closed around the crystal, light spilled between their fingers. Suddenly, Eli was experiencing memories, not just seeing them, but feeling them. Naira's perspective of their first meeting, her fascination with his eyes, her wonder at human music, the moment she realized she loved him despite every reason not to. When the light faded, tears streaked Naira's cheek stairs that shimmered with an iridescent glow, unlike human tears. "I have something to show you," she said, leading him to a secured conference room where holographic projections displayed technical schematics. "This is what I've been working on, a joint mission proposal. A ship built by both our peoples, crewed by both our peoples." Eli studied the plans with growing excitement. "A deep space exploration vessel?" "More than that," Naira's eyes gleamed. "A symbol proof that we can build something magnificent together instead of fearing each other." And her voice softened. "It would require a permanent liaison team. Equal numbers from both worlds, working together for years." "You're proposing a solution to the diplomatic impasse," Eli realized. "And to us," she added quietly. "If we succeed, others like Ishumans and Azarons drawn to each other wouldn't have to choose between worlds." The following weeks brought intense negotiations, with Eli and Naira at the center, advocating tirelessly for their joint vision. Not everyone was convinced, but slowly, attitudes shifted. The prospect of discovery, of being first to explore distant regions together, appealed to both sides' sense of adventure and pride. When final approval came, they celebrated privately, away from official ceremonies. In her quarters, surrounded by mementos of both their worlds, Naira took Eli's hands in hers. "My people have a bonding ritual," she said hesitantly. "Not unlike your concept of marriage, though more focused on joining paths than legal status." Eli's heart swelled. "Are you proposing to me, Ambassador?" Her laugh was like music. "I believe I am, Lieutenant Hayes." As their ship prepared for its maiden voyage months later, Eli stood with Naira on the bridge, watching the stars through the viewscreen. Her hand found his. Fingers intertwining, 5 digits meeting 5 in a perfect fit despite evolving on worlds light years apart. "Ready for our next first contact?" she asked, her eyes reflecting starlight. With you? Eli smiled. Always. As the ship accelerated toward distant stars, they stood together, not just two lovers, but a bridge between worlds. Proof that even across the vast gulfs of space and difference, hearts could find their way home.